Today I'm going to make my lentil loaf, which a lot of my vegetarian friends and meat eaters actually ask for a lot. So to start with, I've put red lentils into water. You don't need to pre-soak these overnight, and as you will see, when you cook lentils you'll get some froth on the top to begin with, and you need to remove that once it starts to form. So I'm just going to take it over to the sink and remove the froth. Now I've also removed most of the water. I didn't measure out these lentils, I just generally chuck them in according to how much loaf I'm going to make. There's probably about 4 cups full there. And I'm going to add a pint of vegetable stock, just to give it some nice flavour. Lentils do seem like a bland food on their own, but you can do so much with them, they're so versatile. And a good source of protein for vegetarians, and also very cheap. It doesn't want to dissolve. So I've got 1 whole stock cube in here. And I'm also going to add a teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to let these cook until they're soft, so about 15 to 20 minutes. Again, watching that any more foam doesn't form, otherwise it will bubble over, so you have to remove that once it forms. Now, whilst the lentils are cooking, I'm going to chop up some vegetables quite finely, because the finer the mixture, the less likely the lentil loaf is to fall apart once it's been cooked. For the onions and celery, I'm going to brown them off in a frying pan before adding them to the mixture, just to add to the flavour of the final product. And celery I'm also going to slice and chop small like the onion. You don't have to use celery in it if you don't like celery, but it does add a nice texture and flavour to the lentil loaf. You can also add chopped up red peppers, mushrooms. I'm not going to do that today because the particular person I'm cooking for is rather fussy. So we're just going to have onions, garlic, celery, grated carrot, and plenty of basil and tomato. And I'm going to add the celery to the frying onions in just a second. I'm giving them a few minutes to brown a little bit first. While I'm waiting to get onions to cook, I'm going to grate the carrots on the large grating rolls. 2 large carrots I've got here. The lentils are cooked when all the water's been absorbed, so it's just nearly there, as you can see. So to the frying onions we're going to add the celery. And also you want plenty of garlic in a lentil loaf to give it the flavour. I cheat, I used crushed garlic that you can buy in a jar. I'm going to put 2 teaspoonsful. This can be kept in the fridge for up to about a month. loaf pans, and if I have enough mixture, I usually make 1 or 2 and freeze them in these takeaway containers. They're also great for giving to friends. If you're allergic to butter, you can grease it with oil or dairy-free margarine, that's fine. And I'll probably put a piece of greaseproof paper in as well. Strip there. So to the onions, garlic, celery and lentils, I'm going to add a grated carrot. Stir that in nicely. And then you're going to want to add either tomato puree or passata, which is like tomato sauce. Well, no, it's like pureed tomatoes, but just a bit weaker than tomato puree. So I'm going to add passata. I'm going to add about 200 ml, and we'll see how that tastes. As you can see, the mixture's quite runny. It's quite runny, so what we're going to do is add some oats to thicken it up into more of a cake type mixture. Now I really don't measure these, I just add enough until I know I've got the right thickness. Of course, if you use tomato puree, it would be a drier mixture, so you wouldn't need so many oats. But I quite like adding oats to it. It just gives it more of a, I don't know, more substance. Now, because there's no fat in this, the mixture can tend to crumble when it's cooked and you're trying to cut it. So I'm going to add an egg to help it bind together. Now for the seasoning, I'm going to use some fresh basil. Fresh is always better than dried. And just pick the nice leaves off. This one has actually kept growing back as we've watered it and kept it in the windowsill. And chop that nice and finely. Using a large knife is always better for cutting herbs. Going to need a bit more, because I've made quite a lot of mixture. So I might add some dried herbs to supplement that as well. There we go, basil. A couple of teaspoons of that. And plenty of crushed black pepper. And stir it all in thoroughly, and then it's time to taste it. See if it needs anything else adding. It needs a bit more tomato actually, and maybe some salt. So instead of adding more puree, because it's obviously making it more watery, more juice, sorry, I'm going to add real tomato puree because it's got a stronger flavour. I really think it should come in a jar. Once you've finished seasoning the mixture to your liking, spoon it into the loaf tins. Now this mixture doesn't rise like a cake, so you want it to be almost at the top. No, about 3/4 spoon. Level it out. Pop it in the oven for about 30 to 40 minutes. Just be careful the top doesn't burn or the outside. If it does, you can cover it with foil while it's cooking.